Masked Hero.
Hello everybody and welcome to another video where I am breaking down the most thematic cards out of every hero's hero kit. And right now we are talking about the next evolution wave: Cable, Domino, Psylocke, Angel, X-23, and Deadpool. So those 6 heroes are the ones that we are talking about today. And I will say that these lists are always a mixture of really simple, like this is the card that I think represents the superpowers from the comics the best, and also sometimes just a giant cluster of I don't even know what to do. And one of these heroes will definitely be an example of this is not as clean cut as some of the other heroes that we've covered today and otherwise. But let's not skip a beat. Let's go right into our heroes and talk about Cable, who I believe is most defined by mind scan. I say that because it is, to me, is a representation of his just omega level telepathy powers. So mind scan is a 2-cost event with the psionic superpower and thwart traits. It has the hero action of thwart, remove 3 threat from a scheme, remove 1 additional threat from that scheme for each side scheme in the victory display. So yeah, this can just be a monumental thwarting event. It can just take off a whole bunch of threat from a scheme when you get into the late game. I like that this power scales to where you are in the game. You can use this on the first turn to just allow Cable plus Mind Scan to get rid of the techno-organic virus if that's the player side scheme you pick for the first time. Yeah, actually, that's what makes this card really great, is that on the first turn, it can just be the answer to whatever side scheme you go pick with his ability, or with Nathan's ability. In the comics, this feels like the right pick. I would say that the telekinetic blast, or whatever his attack event in this kind of category is also a fair thing. But I feel like Cable's ability, his telepathy, is just so powerful. And I think this is a good representation of that. Of just, he can read minds. I wish there was a card that depicted him destroying the Silver Surfer's surfboard. That was during his Messiah era. That was pretty cool. When he thought he was God or Jesus or whatever, his savior era. But overall, yeah, I would say, being serious, his ability to do this, to mind scan, to kind of link with multiple minds, to be on par, if not more, of a telepath than Professor X or Jean Grey. It all seems fair game, and that's why it makes the list today as the most thematic card for Cable. Moving on to Domino, I knew this was going to be easy because there's a lot of great cards she has in her kit. Especially thematically, I think they're all really great, but nothing is really going to top Probability Field in terms of actually being thematic of her powers. I guess I didn't really know the full extent of this, but apparently it is psychic probability manipulation, so there is part of her mind where she is consciously doing this, and that makes sense to me. You look at the comics long enough, you can see that it's kind of almost like psionically doing this. She's manipulating events. She's conscious of the fact she's doing it. I just hadn't put 2 and 2 together. Yes, but I should read the card. It is a 2-cost upgrade, superpower traded with the interrupt of when you use a basic power, discard the top card of your deck. You get +1 to that power's use for each resource icon discarded this way. You're not exhausting this. That comes up in one of Falcon's cards. You're not exhausting for this, which is pretty stellar. Right off the bat, this is like a top tier card. It is, I think, my favorite card from this wave of heroes. Probably even like if you include just like the aspect cards, this might be my favorite card in the game. I think it's just so incredibly awesome. It's perfectly tailored for Domino. It is so great in that sense. But yeah, just her ability to push probability, to push fate. I don't think it's an Omega level power. I don't know if we've ever met a Omega level probability manipulator. I suppose in some cases you could say that Wanda's chaos magic is indicative of that she can just bend reality. I guess that would be the full extent of probability manipulation, is you're bending reality, you're changing the probability of what happened in the past. But either way, for Domino, I think this is a stellar representation of her powers. If you're not aware of what she really does, I know when she was first coming out, people said that she was, I don't know that people were so on the nose to say she's too lucky, but that like she felt like she was too consistent. And it's like, well, yeah, that's literally her probability manipulation. Is you're recalling in your alter ego form, you're recalling cards from the discard pile. In your hero form, you're setting the top card of your deck so that when you do your things, the card you're flipping off the top is going to be the luckiest. And yeah, just I got the joke. I got what the designers are going for. I think it was a great representation. And I think this is a great representation of just what Domino is capable of in a larger sense. Next up, we have Psylocke. And I chose one card, although technically it's two cards, and that is Psy Knife, which is technically also Psy Katana. Psy Knife, the card that I'm most picking, is a upgrade. It has a permanent, and it has the Psy Energy and Weapon traits. And it gives Psylocke +1 to her thwart and a hero resource of Exhaust Psy Knife, generate a mental resource. You may flip this card. The other side being the Katana, pumps up her attack, gives her basic attacks, piercing, and generates a physical resource instead of a mental resource, and then you can also flip it back over. But the Psy Knife, I think, is iconic to Psylocke. She's able to just like focus all of her mental energy into these knives that just kind of like emanate from her hands. She's able to use them to like psionically injure people, to break into their consciousness, to do all this stuff. Like, she's a very strong character. Now, I realize that some of this comes from the fact that she bonded with Quanin, so she gained like ninja skills and stuff. There's problematic parts of that, and the comics have really kind of wrestled with what to do with that over the last 30 years. But just looking at this card, looking at it from the Marvel Champions continuity, because I'm willing to admit that Marvel Champions kind of has its own continuity, and we just kind of go with it. It's kind of stuck in the 90s and 2000s. But yeah, Psy Knife is just such a cool card. I like the fact that it is a weapon that pushes up your thwart, but even just outside of what it mechanically does, I think just what it represents is spot on for Psylocke, and that's why it was a pretty easy pick overall to just kind of nail down. We are rocketing through this list. So next up, we have Aerial Agility out of Angel's pack. This was hard. Angel was a little bit more difficult, but I will say that I think this is what I'm going to land on. I hemmed and hawed for a little bit. It is an event with the aerial and defense traits. It is a hero interrupt defense. When an enemy attacks, if you are Angel, ignore each boost icon and each boost ability for this attack. If you're Archangel, give your hero a tough status card and gain Retaliate 1 for this action. You could do something like Adaptive Plumage, but I would say that Adaptive Plumage doesn't really work because in many instances, Warren does not have the ability to control if he is Angel or Archangel. When he is Archangel, that's just what he is in the comics. And it's later on, like in like the 2005 to 2007 era, that he kind of gets returned into Archangel after being just Angel for a long time, and has a little bit more of a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. The call of Apocalypse is coming for him. Eventually he becomes the heir to Apocalypse. And unfortunately now Doug Ramsey, I think, is the heir to Apocalypse, which is weird. But I haven't read those comics. I just know through osmosis. This is not a Doug Ramsey podcast. Aerial Agility, I think, works because it cares about which form you're in, and I think that it is representative of how Angel and Archangel are different. Angel is a very heroic, agile character. He is so majestic in some ways, whereas Archangel is so blunt. Giving him a tough status card means he's going to survive the stack. Giving him Retaliate makes him feel a little bit more like one of the villains. They don't give Retaliate out that often. They're starting to get to that point, but it's not that often that it happens. Giving it to Archangel, particularly because Archangel is more of the living on a... Oh, I found money. I found $6. Just found $6 under my keyboard pad. What was I saying? Archangel gets the tough status card, gets Retaliate 1. It just feels colder. It feels more dark and evil and brooding. And yeah, just overall, I think there are other cards in this kit that I would... If somebody made a good argument, I would give them the credit for. But I think Aerial Agility, for the purposes of this list, is what I'm going to go with and what I feel is the most spot on for just capturing Warren and Angel and Archangel. Now, next up, we have X-23. This was, I'm not going to say it was difficult, because I guess, okay, if I was to rate all of X-23's cards on a scale from 1 to 10, or even just 1 to 5, I would say that if I'm going to rate them on that scale for thematics, not power level or anything, for thematics to what she does, I would say that a lot of the cards are 3 and 4s out of 5. Regenerative Longevity is the 5 out of 5. I think this is so spot on for what X23 does. So regenerative longevity, obviously it's been on screen hopefully for this entire explanation, is a 1 cost event, superpower traded action, heal 4 damage from your identity. Did I pick the right card? I don't think I did. I did not pick the card I was thinking of. Okay, so, oh god, this is a really close tie, because now that I'm looking at it, the card I meant to be reading off was Pain Tolerance, which is a 2-cost upgrade superpower. After you play an X23 card, including this one, heal 1 damage from your identity. I am actually very conflicted here, because I wanted to say Pain Tolerance. Pain Tolerance was what I wrote down, and then I looked at the fact that her superpower is regeneration and everything, and just went, oh, regenerative longevity. I just clicked on the wrong thing. I'm going to say that both of these are, when I'm using that analogy, both of these are kind of 5 out of 5s in terms of thematics. Unlike Wolverine, I'm not going to say that X23 is a darker character, but I think that her backstory is darker in some ways. In a way where Wolverine's backstory is dark, but I feel like X23's backstory is dark in a way that feels like something that actually could happen to a person. In ways that would probably get a video demonetized if I went into it. But like, there is a lot of body autonomy issues with her. And when she first gets introduced into the comics, there's a lot of things that Pain Tolerance as a name might invoke. There is a lot of, I would say maybe self-harm is one way of describing the early X23 stories. I think she was originally called Talon at the time. That said, I think that both cards, this and Regenerative Longevity, are indicative of just her ability to heal, but I would say that Pain Tolerance is the one that is indicative of what makes her life story different from Logan's. And so that's why Pain Tolerance, in its name, in its thematics, in what it's kind of invoking, in her like grit and integrity, and like just backstory, I feel like Pain Tolerance is what encompasses everything. Regenerative Longevity is the card that definitely like says on the tin what her powers are. And so this is sort of a weird mix of theme here, but I'm going to say that Pain Tolerance is the card that I'm picking. Let me know if you think that Regenerative Longevity is just period the better choice here, but either way, that is where I land. And so let's get into the final card on the list, and that is Deadpool. And Deadpool was the hardest character for me to nail down, because I actually feel like his cards all cover aspects of him, but I don't know. I guess his actual card itself, the fact that when he gets defeated he just goes to 1, is probably the most thematic, because it's actually representative of his like hyper healing. The fact that his alter ego can heal for 8 is representative of that. Like he heals really fast. He's almost overloaded with healing. But I would say that maximum effort, in the fact that it like meta knowledge also sort of sits there, because he has meta knowledge. He's aware of what medium he's in. He's aware of, I'm in a comic book, I'm in a movie, I'm in a cartoon, I'm on a radio show. But I would say that maximum effort is, the art itself is a reference to a Captain America card. The fact that he just deals a bunch of damage to himself to deal a bunch of damage to you, I think also just points to how unpredictable his fighting stance is. Him and Taskmaster often have very spirited fights in the comics, because Taskmaster, for all of his like perfect memory, adaptive or whatever it's called, muscle memory, his adaptive muscle memory is like super powered muscle memory, he can't really predict what Deadpool's going to do all the time, because Deadpool is just so unpredictable that that's kind of part of his superpower. And so I'll cop up to the fact that Deadpool is a hard character to nail down as to which of these cards is the one that most represents his powers, but I'm going to go with maximum effort, because I think that even as a physical card, it is a reference to something else. It is fourth wall breaking. A lot of his cards are fourth wall breaking, but I would say maximum effort for me feels like it is both a catchphrase, it is a allusion to another card in our game, and it is representative of how his unpredictable fighting style is often what wins him over. And maximum effort is a card that definitely can be pushing you over the edge and getting you a victory. But that is my list. I will be back hopefully pretty soon to cover the Age of Apocalypse stuff. I think if I space this out enough, we may even be able to fit in the Civil War wave around the time that it ends. maybe once we have all the previews for Hercules and Wonder Man, it'll be easier to do that. But hopefully I am back again very soon, and this is not another 2 months. But until next time, thank you so much for your time. Have a great day, and remember, you're doing great. Keep it up.